Hello all. Today I would like to introduce you to the CEO of Forward Water Technologies, Howie Honeyman. He's someone with chemical backgrounds and has a long experience with commercializing innovation. Howie, how are you?
I'm good, Christos. It's good to connect with you for sure.
We have been in contact for quite a number of years now.
We have, yeah.
And I have the pleasure of getting to know you and Forward Water Technologies. But for those that are not very familiar with the company, would you mind explaining what exactly you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So Forward Water Technologies is commercializing what we think are quite convinced is a viable commercial forward osmosis technology for the treatment of high strength brines and wastewaters and other heavily saline materials. And let's be clear, what we bring to the commercialization side of forward osmosis is the combination of forward osmosis, the membrane process, which has been widely established in the academic literature, unioned with a very efficient draw recycling technology, which is where our intellectual property exists. So if we bring those two things together, we have a commercializable industrial forward osmosis process that can treat very high strength brines well beyond the reach of reverse osmosis, as an example. And we're really competing now with evaporative technologies. And that's kind of where we fit in the technology sort of sector in wastewater treatment and brine treatment.
What makes you different from the rest of the forward osmosis companies?
Well, as I mentioned, it's a commercial forward osmosis process is really two technologies that you need to have available. One is the membrane step, which allows you to separate the water from the incoming feed stream. But that only happens if you've got a high strength draw solution that is a very high salinity engineered brine that allows you to transport the water across the membrane or drive the water across the membrane. To do that and make that efficient, that draw solution needs to be recyclable and eliminate any sort of consumable that you might require. You can't simply use sodium chloride and simply dilute sodium chloride, because then you'd have to throw it away, and that makes it unfeasible. So you have to find a way to take your engineered draw solution and recycle it. And the extra complication that comes into that is it has to be energy efficient. So you have to be able to create the osmotic potential to draw the water across, recycle the chemicals that you use to manufacture that draw solution, and do so in an energy efficient manner. And that's something that we've been able to overcome and demonstrate that we've got a high recyclable thermolytic draw that gives us very, very high osmotic pressure, so we can desalinate very high strength brines. We don't lose any of that material in the process, so we don't have a leakage or a fugitive aspect, and we can recycle it using low energy, right? And that gives us a really effective commercial forward osmosis approach. That's what differentiates us from sort of the academic study of just the membrane process. And we've been able to scale that up. This is well outside of the laboratory now. We can create, and we have built industrial scale systems capable of treating up to 50,000 liters of brine a day. And we feel that's a reasonable foothold for full commercialization. We've done capital design work up to treating 100 cubic meters per day. We don't have any issues with scale up, and as typically membrane processes are really highly scalable. So we've differentiated ourselves from call it bench scale forward osmosis process. We've taken that all the way up to full scale commercialization, and we're at the point now where we're looking at our first commercial systems being installed in some sectors.
Okay. Remind me how many years you have been in the market?
So I joined the company when it was in the laboratory phase, based at the University Accelerator in 2015. And so we've gone all the way, I've taken the journey all the way from the laboratory to the engineering floor to the commercialization scale, both contributing technically when I can, but also building a business as well.
It must have been quite a journey up to now. And
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, it has been. And there's predictions that this is not a typical time. This is a pretty typical timeline for new water technologies. 7 to 10 years is not uncommon.
Even 16 years, it has been said. But I think you have got quite some investment up to now for FWT.
Yeah. So
partly because of your efforts.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We started off privately funded. That is venture capital based. We had some wonderful investors who continue to stay with us and invest. But interestingly, my background for the other companies that I've worked in, the different types of technologies that I've commercialized, were all venture backed. I finding the water sector in general isn't attractive to the venture capital investment community, partly due to the timelines. Now, I know there's a lot of private capital out there, and there have been very successful private investments, but we really struggled finding additional venture backed funding. So we took the opportunity to list on the public exchange in 2021, and we became a publicly traded company, for better or for worse. But that allows us to raise an additional $6.5–7 million almost. And we've been listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange since then. But we continue to fundraise using in the sector or the private area, or excuse me, the public area, through private placements and the like. And we continue to fund the company and underwrite the costs of commercialization by that process. So it's been creative. But we've so far, we live to fight another day, and we're moving into the commercial sector. We've got some really great pipeline that we've developed over the last 3 or 4 years.
So speaking about pipelines, which type of projects are you mostly aiming at right now?
Yeah, so we began the journey sort of looking at oil and gas, wastewater, and there's that's a very difficult sector to penetrate.
Yep.
We learned a lot about the market, and I think that's kind of the key thing that has happened over the last 3 or 4 years. And one of the things that I think you're familiar with is brine management.
Yep.
And that has been sort of what we've focused on, as opposed to call it in straight industrial waste, which we still think we have a good opportunity in. But brine management's become very focused, and there are high value brines. And so when we started thinking about the business from that perspective, we realized that these valuable brines can be either reconstituted or concentrated or have materials of value in them. And being able to treat those brines using non-forced evaporative methods provided a number of benefits to the people actually looking at treating these brines on a broad scope. That thread, if you will, led us to brine management within the lithium sector, where there's a lot of aquifer activity, harvesting the lithium out of aquifers, and getting the lithium from the aquifer to a battery grade material is a multi-step process, and almost every single step within that process is managing a brine, a salinity, highly mineralized solution, whether it comes out of the ground or what's post-treatment when you're trying to separate the lithium from the brines. And that led us to a number of really great opportunities. And so we're pursuing lithium brine management as one of our subsectors, getting a lot of traction in that area. There's a lot of activity still. And it actually highlighted a couple of things. We came in and it's a growing industry. People are making buy decisions now on their processes. There's not an incumbent process that you have to displace. And one of the drivers that really became very prevalent is the ESG profile that you have to provide while getting the lithium out of the ground, right? Yeah. If you pollute the world and burn coal to get the lithium out of the ground to build your EV car, nobody's going to buy that, because the end purchaser is motivated by a green footprint as well as having a new car. And even the suppliers are coming all the way down to the ground. So the automobile manufacturers are coming right down to the ground to see where the lithium is coming from. Our technology, low energy, returns clean water back to the environment, whether you reuse it in operations or provide it to the local community or whatever. We don't consume the water, we return it, while at the same time providing the lithium source that can be converted from the lithium chloride, which is typically what you see, converted to the lithium carbonate for EV processing into batteries. And so we have a nice series of checkboxes, and that's really given us a lot of traction in that sector.
That's not the ESG part of the story is not the only thing that you have done successfully, right? It's not like you went out and you only tried to sell your technology process. You took another more creative commercial approach, right? By using your network.
Yeah. So, we went out to the primary lithium resource companies, the companies that had the natural resources that were going to get the lithium out of there. We worked with them to understand their problems and their needs. Right. We learned that a lot of these companies come in with a mining perspective. They land on the ground. They look at their aquifer and they go, "Oh my God, it's water processing. We don't know anything about water processing." So we actually used our expertise and our background to say, "Hey, we can help here. Let's. I mean, these are smart individuals, smart companies, right? But they did need some support on this is how you manage water."
Yep.
We, in many cases, we helped them design their full process flow, which incorporated forward osmosis, and we then brought in other agents, people who do conversion. They actually convert the lithium chloride to the lithium carbonate, and we provided water services or water treatment expertise to those companies as well. So we brought the buyers together for our own technology. They're now pulling our technology into their processes. We'll service them, giving them equipment under our various business models. But we sort of created our own market by going to the end user and giving an opportunity to the suppliers.
You took initiatives and you became the connecting tissue in this business case, right?
Yeah, and it's worked quite nicely. We've even done a number of consulting projects. So that's another small aspect of our business. Is while we're focused on delivering our equipment under a couple of business models, we start by providing consulting services to some of these companies, and small contracts, but these are contracts that help them build a water treatment pathway or a brine management pathway to get the lithium, and that's turned out to be a really nice pathway. It gave us a little bit of revenue, which is always nice, but it helped us build the relationship with the end user, and it helped us understand what their pressures are and their problems are, and then we inbuilt our technology to solve those problems for them.
Yeah, and I guess the build of trust and networking is something that is not exactly easy in this industry.
No, it's a lot of challenges there for sure.
And this brings me to the next question. With you having a series of different experiences, commercializing innovation, how do you see the application of new technologies in the water industry? What do you think are the basic hurdles here that need to be overcome?
You're right. I do have a little bit of a broad, seemingly completely unrelated background experience. But one of the key ones I'll just bring up is I worked at a company called E-Ink, which developed electronic paper. And when we were involved in doing that in the initial days, nobody believed the technology was going to be suitable for displays. Nobody thought there'd be customer demand. Everybody was, pointed to the horrendous number of display technologies that had failed, right? There was no way we were going to be able to take this technology and commercialize it. And I got the opportunity to work with a lot of smart people, a lot of very good talents. We had some fantastic time doing it. But at the end of the day, e-readers are now ubiquitous across the globe.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking a lot of the experiences from that and another technology I developed for membrane process for biotherapeutic production. And I'm seeing some of those same themes in the water industry. New technology, never going to work. Been done before, never going to work. But I look at the fundamental advantages that our specific technology brings to the forefront, being able to treat high-strength brines that are typically sent for burn, bury, and boil, right? That's how you treat them, right, today. Very fundamental treatments, primordial almost. And I have seen the advantages our technology can bring to the sector. So fundamentally at the core, we've got a technology that can treat water, cover the water, and do so at a low cost, low energy, and better environmental footprint. That fundamental core is what I'm nursing.
Do you think it's better to try to convince notoriously risk-averse industry by continuing to point out the water benefits, or do you think that we will need to create another revenue stream by recovery of viable contaminants in order to, let's say, increase the business case?
Well, one of the tenets that I have is you go where you're loved. We're developing a new technology, so what we're looking at is opportunities where we can show the technology is impactful. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the reasons we've led to concentrating materials of value as opposed to focusing on the treatment of waste products initially. We think the treatment of wastewater is still a very viable business opportunity, but you pointed to the conservatism. It's, you know, in the industry, it is improving somebody's bottom line and not their top line. So there's barriers internally to sort of the waste management side. So we focused on brine management, where the concentration of the brine, and water is a byproduct, but the concentration of the brine brings greater value to the people who are looking at that. And that fits in very nicely into the lithium sector. That gives us the ability to add value on their top line. And that makes it much more adaptable probability for us, much better opportunity.
And perhaps
that's how we're getting a foothold.
And perhaps it's also better to do it through collaborations, as you did, through your network, in order to bring additional value with people who have other expertise than yours.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be part of the community, right? It's water treatment is complex, right? There is no one treatment that fits all solutions, and it's usually a technology solution for an end user is an agglomerate of steps, right? It's multiple treatment processes, and we're only one part of that process. So we like to focus on a holistic approach to solve the customer's final needs, and that means bringing in partners who do things that complement our technology. And that, again, has worked very nicely in the lithium sector, where we've partnered and teamed up with converters who do the chemical conversion of the lithium to the lithium carbonate, and we provide part of that overall treatment system. And the team of that collaboration provides the services to the lithium resource group.
Yeah. So we have talked time and time again in this industry about how fragmented it is, and everybody working in their own silo space, not exchanging ideas, not exchanging commercial opportunities in fear of being competitive between each other. But the thing is that by working together, in the end, we create way more opportunities for everybody.
I would agree. And there's large companies that have decided what they're going to do is bring everything in internally, right? Where they have sort of that, what you're describing as the cooperative team. It's all under one umbrella. And there's groups like Gradient, is the poster child for that. And great business, done really well, obviously. But I think that if you look at that as a collaborative effort, right, that's what we're trying to do. Maybe there's another company in our collaboration, but there's enough opportunity that we can deliver to the whole market as a group, as an ensemble, as opposed to individual silos. And again, water treatment's complex.
Or big conglomerates.
Big conglomerates are great. They're not nimble. I mean, if you're needing to treat a 1,000 cubic meters a day, you're going to be a very small client base to the Veolias of the world or what have you.
Yeah.
But that opportunity to an ensemble of or a network like ours, that's a great opportunity, and we're going to put that client right on the top of the attention list. And if I was somebody I was processing agricultural waste, I'd rather be at the top of the list in terms of priority for a team than something to get around to. So we're nimble.
Certainly, I would like to see way more agility in the industry when it comes to decision making. I think that companies are growing, but also the inner bureaucracy grows along with them.
Correct.
And everything almost slows down to a halt a lot of times. And smaller companies doing a joint effort in a project goes way faster. But
and
of
I
course,
think
it's
that's
all a matter of
exactly what we're
scale
going to do.
again.
Yeah. So we're taking exactly that pathway. Yeah.
So, what would be the way forward, do you think, for the water industry based on all these hints? How do we take it forward? How do we add value to it and fill the pipeline for the next years?
Well, since 2015, when I joined the company, I've noticed a sea change, if you will. Originally, it was strictly economics, right? Can you provide the best water treatment system? And what's come into the mix now, and I think appropriately and perhaps unfortunately, has been the need for sustainable profiles on the water preservation side, to the extent where we're even getting some early signals from areas such as Texas-based oil and gas companies, where water recycling is now becoming a high priority. So I think the opportunity for the water sector is to take advantage of that, provide good water treatment economic options that also have an impact on the water reuse and recycling. And I think following that thread is where the sector needs to go, because unfortunately, water scarcity is becoming a real business issue, not just a nice to have environmental issue anymore. And I can give you a specific example, if you will. We've explored opportunities in Mexico, and the opportunity in specifically we're looking at is a manufacturer of consumer goods. Their production is limited by the amount of water they can take from the municipal system, and because they're under severe water stress, they're only allowed to remove a certain amount of water from that municipal system a day, and that necessarily limits their production rate. So if you can tap into that water scarcity as the industry as a whole, enable the better reuse of water so the production rates can increase, you've got a real opportunity. And that's kind of where I say, look, this water recycling, water sustainability, water reuse is good, because we're all humans. We need access to water. That's great. But it also has immediate business impacts now. And I think if we focus on that as a sector, we're going to see opportunities for companies like ours, the smaller, nimble companies who can come in, solve a problem, either as a partnership or individually, and drive that water scarcity issue into the ground by enabling better production rates.
Do you think we have conveyed the message enough outside of the tides water professional bubble to the outer world of what we can do with the relative technologies?
So I'm going to say no. I don't think we've done a great job at it. And I mean, perhaps we're at the leading edge with companies like Forward Water, and I know there's a number of other small companies, and maybe we don't have the visibility. But our experience has been, and we have brought not only our technology to some of our clients, but we provide water treatment oversight across the industry, right? Like, hey, you've got a water treatment issue. This is what you need to do. And so we've actually become consultants to the water industry. And surprisingly, industry as a whole is quite naive about what technology options are out there and what they need to do. And this goes from recommending standard treatment technologies. You need an RO system, you need a UF system, to also recommending more advanced emerging treatments, everything from, closed circuit reverse osmosis, osmotically assisted options, but obviously we like to present our forward osmosis as a viable option as well. And so I don't think the industry is as savvy as they need to be. That's what we're learning, and we need to provide that expertise as well.
Yeah, everybody thinks they have the best solution to save the world, and that.
sorry. I find I've come across several technologies that have saved the world so far, but the world is yet to be saved.
Yeah, I've heard it way too many times up to now in my career. But you referenced ESG metrics. Mm-hmm. Do you think that ESG funding could be a serious accelerator of innovation in the water sector?
I do, and especially and oddly from the corporates. I mean, the corporates make commitments to their shareholders, public corporates, that they will drive an ESG program, and many of them have done some excellent work on pulling apart their own corporations and finding out where they can be impactful. Water typically ends up in the top 3. And I've actually worked with a couple of corporates that were motivated to address those issues, so they can go back to their shareholder base and say, we have done what we said we were going to do. And so that leads to opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And and I think that's oddly coming together quite nicely.
I tried to repeat the same thing in the last Aquatech here in Amsterdam during one of my presentations, that there is the option now with ESG funding to get the vehicle of innovation further down the line in this sector. And I don't think we should miss it. The means are there to finally do what we're trying to do for the last 15 years.
And I think unfortunately, the increasing focus and the actual reality of water stressed regions is going to help accelerate that even further. And it's surprising. We used to think that sub-Saharan Africa was Middle East, that's water stressed, water scarce regions. But now it's across LATAM, even parts of Europe. I was actually speaking with somebody in the United Kingdom, which of all places where they're under water stress, right? And
here in the Netherlands,
so water,
there are under water stress.
Absolutely. And so Canadian rainforests, right, on the West Coast a couple of years ago were under drought conditions. So we're seeing an environmental reaction to human activity, without going too deep into that. But that's translating into water scarcity, and that water scarcity is going to translate into ESG opportunities for new technologies such as forward osmosis and our technology, right? So I think there is an opportunity growing, and that's really changed since 2015. That was not the case almost 10 years ago.
Definitely, and I would add to that besides the water recovery, we have always to look into the creation of new revenue streams with whatever wastewater stream we are treating. It's opportunities that we cannot let go. Like organic wastewater, inorganic wastewater. There is always opportunity in there.
Yeah, I mean, and isolating valuable materials on the concentrate side, better water reuse practices. Tapping into the, we were talking briefly earlier, tapping into the ability to improve the top line revenue for your clients or your opportunities. That gets way more attention in the boardroom than saving some operational expenses. And if you can go to a company and say, hey, we can improve your top line revenue stream by recycling your water, you're going to get attention, and you're going to get a project, right? That's a lot different than going to the operation manager and say, hey, I can save you 30% on stuff that you already have budgeted, right? Less interesting.
In the previous conversation I've had with Arjen Edelet from Active Membranes, we said that perhaps the water sector should invest more in their communication skills through NGOs or other, let's say, campaign vehicles to educate the public for the water stress conditions that we are currently in order for the public to push for new legislations and new, let's say, green footprint stamps on different products. Yeah, you said it yourself, like customers are now way more aware of the conditions that specific products are made, and they are pressing the companies to get more green. That it's simple as that.
I think there's some sense in that. It's very, if you're looking for a way to offset your water treatment and for whatever reason, it's very difficult for companies to go and peel apart all the layers of where the technologies are and what they're doing. And so there does need to be a better communication pathway, and it needs to be more organized. Now, how you go about doing that, I leave that to greater minds. But there is a vacancy of awareness, I guess, on how to treat water and what the options are. I have had people call me up and say, reach out to me from the public and say, listen, you're doing water treatment. That's great. I'm really worried about it. Is there, what are we going to do? We're running out of water, and almost panicking. It's kind of a strange thing, just getting these random calls. There are solutions, right? That's the problem that people don't recognize. There are solutions, not only our technology, but there's other technologies that are being developed. We can solve this problem, but we need to do it in a more unified way. And that's the absence, right?
Yeah, I think we have kind of a dinosaur commercial logic in the water sector, and we need to take the thing a little bit more holistic when it comes to marketing the ideas that are running within the water bubble. And hopefully with your efforts and more people like you bringing their experience from commercialization of innovative technologies, maybe we can achieve that.
Yeah, and it's going to take there's not going to be a silver bullet technology. There will not be a silver bullet technology. It's going to take a broad menu of available technologies to solve every individual problem. Yep. And so you actually have to have that catalog of technologies accessible, so the individual processes or individual water needs can be basically Lego blocked together to solve every individual issue. And I'm unfortunately, a little bit pessimistic about people getting together and trying to solve this problem ahead of time. And one of the examples I point to is the challenges in South Africa that we saw a number of years ago, where day zero was reached, and the instantaneous impact of getting to day zero on the local communities was, in my mind, was stunning, right? And unfortunately, I think it's going to take that type of example surfacing again and again before people realize, you know what, we need a strategy on how to resolve our ability to recycle, repurpose, reuse our water.
We need better water management yesterday, but I guess the problem will go up to here before we start acting.
Unfortunately, I think that's what we learn over and over again as a species.
Howie, I would like to thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule and so early in your morning in Canada to have a talk with me. I think I will leave you to enjoy your coffee.
Thank you very much, Christos. It was
It's been a
wonderful
pleasure to
speaking
talk
with
to
you.
you, and I'll be very interested to see how FWT moves on commercially.
Excellent. Stay in touch. Again, it's nice speaking with you as well. Enjoy your afternoon.
Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.